Good morning and welcome back to the One God, One Thought Center for Better Living. This is our Sunday worship time, our time to contemplate and reflect and study and pray and gain new understanding about some of the spiritual principles and the spiritual nature of life itself. And so today, on this last Sunday in the month of June, when we celebrate the power of imagination, the power to visualize and to vision and to see spiritually things that we are not necessarily able to see in our material consciousness. But when we elevate our consciousness to spirit, if anyone is in Christ, all things become new. And so that is what our ministry is about. We are teaching the abundant living message of Jesus the Christ. We are New Thought Christian metaphysicians, and we are a part of the Universal Foundation for Better Living, founded by the Reverend Dr. Johnny Coleman. Matter of fact, we are celebrating 48 years of the Universal Foundation for Better Living this year. Our current president is the Reverend Dr. Sheila McKeithen, and we are here in Baltimore, Maryland at the One God, One Thought Center. This is Bernette Jones, senior minister here, bringing you this message of truth, the truth of your being, the truth of all being. So God created. In Genesis 1:27, it says God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them, male and female. He created them. He created humankind as male and female. Not just male, not just female, as male and female. And in this creation story, if we really take a look at it, because this part of creation was before there was even flesh. We don't get to the part of creation where the flesh comes on the male and female until a little bit later. But in this first movement of God, God created human beings as male and female, having both aspects in that spiritual nature before incarnation into bodies even took place. You know, one of the greatest challenges of our time is supporting people in their choices and their rights to choose. This includes the right to stand for the choices that souls have made prior to incarnation. The soul gets to choose. What is it coming back into a body to accomplish? The soul gets to choose. And a part of the right and a part of the support of that right is supporting the decision that souls have made related to gender expression when they get into a body experience. It is the right of every soul to choose. You know, more often than ever, Right now, people are choosing to acknowledge, express, and affirm in a public way their right to express gender. People have invented Pride Month to create a sacred space for community, to uplift and celebrate the soul's gender expression. That's really what the affirmation of pride is about. That people are taking a stand to say that it is my right and my choice, regardless of what other people outside may be saying or thinking. The integrity to the soul's decision prior to even coming into a body is what people who express gender based on that soul choice are doing. They're not trying to be defiant of conventional thinking and conventional heterosexual expression. It's people knowing that they must have integrity with how they are created and what they came to express. For those on the spiritual path, when we look at this from a purely spiritual perspective, we can see that what emerges is the soul making a decision about how to make the journey from the Adam state of consciousness to the Christ state of consciousness. Because we understand in New Thought Christian metaphysics that the Bible is metaphysically the story of every soul's journey from the Adam physical male and female state of consciousness once the flesh was put on, and making the journey through many different iterations and experiences and journeys up and down and states of consciousness throughout scripture, just going through until in the end we get to the Christ and the Christ state of consciousness, which is extremely inclusive. But what is actually going on from my perspective and interpretation is that people, before they even incarnate into a body, are choosing how they're going to make that journey. What are going to be the series of life experiences that will help them to elevate their soul to that state of consciousness? You know, for those who are not aware that the path of life is a spiritual one. It's all spiritual. The whole path, the whole journey is spiritual. And this idea and interpretation, it might be a mental stretch for some people. It might be a mental stretch that people who are part of the LGBTQ, and people are adding different gender and expressions all the time. We're seeing it. Non-binary and people who are selecting, I would say, even before they get here, that this is a way for me to express the Christ and discover the Christ and attain the Christ consciousness in a way that works for me. This is what my soul requires. Nobody outside can look in and know what it is another soul is doing on this journey. Not only is it none of our business, we can hardly keep up with what we're doing. Let me speak for myself. But to be looking at what other people are doing and saying what they should be doing, it is not something that is honoring the soul's right to express in the way that is best for the attainment of that consciousness. So it's a stretch for a lot of people. There's some people who don't even want to look at it. They don't even want to consider it. But once we take that leap in awareness, we can see some things. We can see some things differently. The two most wonderful stories that we have to share today. One of them is an interview that was done by Vale Leonard, the Reverend Vale Leonard, who's a part of our spiritual community. She's the founder of the Light of Truth Center. And she was interviewed by one of the ministers from Unity. And she shares a lot about what it's like to simply be different and having to grow through and go through the experiences of being what the world calls a lesbian woman. She's a person expressing her soul's right divine expression and discovering that and discovering what it means.
It was really kind of horrific, in the early years when I was very young. And because it is very hard to love the Lord the way that I do and to go into a church and hear someone call you an abomination. So that was the difficulty, not my relationship with God, but my relationship with the church and church family.
And was that the same in relationship to your biological family?
It was difficult for them. I have two brothers. I'm the only girl. So it was very, very difficult for them. They're old school, old traditional church folk. And so, ingrained in them, was this belief, that it was more than a sin. It was an abomination. So it was very, very difficult for them. And it took them some time to really grasp it. They had this idea, of what I should be like and how I should show up in the world. And I just didn't show up that way. And I didn't from the very beginning. And so they knew it when I was really young, and they did everything they could to make a difference. They did everything they could to kind of turn my life around. They thought it was a phase. They thought I had been influenced. They thought so many things, and they just went on this crusade, so to speak, to really change me. And I am who I am unapologetically. It's difficult when the people that you love and that you grow up with and in a loving home, and suddenly there's this change of perspective, this change of attitude and change of behavior toward you. It's very difficult.
Yes.
But I love them both deeply. And so for me today, it is very, very different. For me today, I came to an understanding, to a belief that this was simply a soul's unfoldment and nothing more. And that everything that I went through, I had to go through to be who I am today. Because you see, at this point in my life, labels are very difficult for me. Very difficult for me because I know who I am. You see, there was a time when I didn't know who I am, but I know who I am now. I am divine. I am heir to the kingdom. I am stardust walking. If you're going to identify me, please rightly identify me.
We're spiritual beings in a spiritual world that is governed by spiritual laws. We're spiritual beings in a spiritual universe that is governed orchestrated, unfolded according to the laws and principles of spirit, not according to the laws and principles of the human fleshly expression. We are spiritual beings that are governed by these laws. This being truth with a capital T, at the soul level, we're genderless because God created us in His image likeness. God is not a he. Contrary to some more traditional thinking, and contrary to how we speak it, and contrary to how people interpret what Scripture is saying. But it does say that God created all of us according to God's image likeness. That would make all of us genderless up to the point when the soul decides to incarnate and decides what expression physically is going to best serve my soul. So we incarnate in the material world in the best way that we can. And to discover and find our real self, when we get to the point where we're able to truly find out who and what we really are, none of the names, none of the labels, none of the whether I'm the male, the female, whether I'm a male with a male, a female with a female, none of that really matters in the end. Because we are all expressions of a divine principle that is genderless. So we are given the authority, the power, and the dominion before we even take on the flesh. We are given that authority and that power and that dominion to create, just as God creates. We have a special, just delightful treat about one of our members, Karen Clay, and her sister, Catherine. Now, the astounding thing and the fun thing about this is that Catherine expresses differently than Karen, and you'll see that in the video clip, but they sound like the same person. That to me is the clear metaphor that says there's only one, the power of one, and they are twins, so connected and so delightful and so loving and so gifted and talented that, well, I'll let you see the story. You'll love it too.
Hi, sister dear. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing okay. What about you?
I'm doing just wonderful. I'm so happy that you decided to help me talk about why I celebrate Pride. So I would like you, from the perspective of my dear twin sister, to tell me what Pride is to you.
Let's see. Pride is as young as 5 years old, knowing my twin sister was different, even before I could articulate what that difference was. Pride is knowing what my sister had to tell me when she was 24, even as she struggled to get the words out. Remember, I told me for you. Pride is being the mediator between our parents and you, helping our parents come to a place of acceptance and not self-blame. Pride is remember when I would quiz every potential suitor about supporting you in your right to be your authentic self, even to the point of disqualifying those who appeared as if they would not treat you with acceptance and respect. They didn't deserve either of us. And last of all, pride is loving my wombykins unconditionally. So don't mess with my sister. You'll have me to answer to.
We're the image likeness of God. God is the creator. So are we. So are we. And so part of the journey is this, recognizing that whatever the challenges are, whatever the obstacles are, whatever the uplifting experiences are, whatever the growth experiences are, that come along with whatever choice, whatever gender choice we express, whatever all of that may be, whether the Adam state of consciousness or the Eve state of consciousness, they're all just a vehicle or a channel to grow the consciousness up to the Christ mind. When we can accept that that is what's going on, we can be not only aware that there's a bigger thing going on as God has created people the way that they are. People who come into this incarnation and have recognized that who I am in this lifetime is to express male, is to express female, is to love male, love female, those are all experiences designed long before we get here. And it would be a great travesty, in my opinion, for people to not have integrity to that understanding and realization of who they are. And so it's not a struggle. At some point, when we get to that Christ consciousness, a personhood takes over. And it's no longer about whether you're male or female, how you use your genitals, or whether or not it's just not about any of that. It's about learning how to love yourself. It's learning about who and what you are. It's learning about, and this is the thing I love about Pride Month, it's learning about how to connect with other people to create a dynamic energy of life where people are honestly and authentically being who they incarnated to be. And lifting up that principle and learning to recognize and experience people authentically, no matter what they're expressing in terms of a physical body, in terms of households and relationships, and learning to accept and discovering the brilliance, the beauty, the wonder in the diversity of people. God has done some amazing, incredible things through all people. Whether they're gay or heterosexual or lesbian or queer, or God is doing incredible things through souls that are willing to have integrity with what they have discerned about who they are before they ever got to a body. There's a beauty in that. There's a joy in that. There's a love in that. The ability to appreciate and acknowledge people as divine beings and divine souls. It's a beauty and a wonder in that. There's a grace in that. And so for those who struggle, for some it's a struggle about how do I let my family and other people know that I have a different expression than what they may have expected. How do I let people know that? How do I let my family know that? How do I put aside the fear of being rejected? How do I put aside the fear of being outcast? You take pride and affirm yourself. That's what you do. And there is a principle of consciousness and spirituality that will uplift that affirmation. It will uplift it above and beyond whatever it is that the world may be saying that contradicts that. There's a beauty in that. There's a wonder in that. There's a joy in that. And so today, I acknowledge the One God, One Thought Center and all of us here who have designed in our consciousness, in our image likeness, that we are diverse and created in all kinds of ways. And our brothers and sisters who have chosen before they ever got into a body, we support, we love, because we're all here seeking the exact same thing. Not one of us is seeking anything other than that pure love of being, the pure love of self, the pure love of our neighbors, our friends, our loved ones, and honoring how they express in all things. So I'm just so grateful that that's the spiritual community that we have here. I'm so grateful for our members who share themselves, all of our members. We don't really pay attention. I remember saying that to somebody, like, we don't really pay a whole lot of attention to whether you're expressing one way or the other. We honor it, we acknowledge it, but express your gender and your sexuality the way you hear Spirit saying to you is the way to honor how God has created you. And you know what happens here? The most incredible relationships and collaborations and creativity and dance. You know, we dance, everybody dances with everybody. Everybody loves with everybody. Just the joy of community that is non-judgmental, community that's embracing, community that is authentic and real people, families, people in divine right relationships, people expressing their Christ in incredible ways to teach the principles of metaphysics, to teach the principles of being in sacred space everywhere, not just in here, but we take it out into our households, our communities, our families, our businesses, our institutions where we work. Being the full expression of God. And just knowing that at some point, people who don't understand that can understand it because we have allowed ourselves to be a channel and a vessel for expressing that in the world. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for going there with us. Thank you for expanding your consciousness beyond your physicality. Thank you for being willing to have a new understanding and a new interpretation of who and what you are as a spiritual being that decided to take on a fleshly body and can do as you choose from the choice you made before you came out of your mother's womb. God created you that way before you came out of your mother's womb. And so we support and love. We do same gender marriages. We do all the sacerdotal blessings. We support people to have children and families in same gender unions. We support the people to express what God has given each one of us to express. It's a safe place here. It's a loving place here. It's an energetic place here. It's a place where you learn to embrace diversity of people. And so to all of our family and friends who gender express differently, our hearts are glad that we can share together and be together. Our hearts are glad, and we join you in taking pride that that is who you're being and that is what you're doing with integrity to the spirit that is guiding your soul. We love you. Thank you for supporting this ministry. Thank you for bringing your talents, your tithes, your offerings to all of the people who come to the One God, One Thought Center for Better Living, to people who are out there watching virtually. We invite you to join us for our in-service, on-site services. If you'd like to get a copy of our e-blast, you can always go to our website at www.ogot.org and go scroll all the way down to the bottom, and you'll see a way to sign up for our e-blast. And that way you can know when we're having on-site service, when we're having events. We've got some great things coming up this summer. Very excited about. And so you're invited to participate. We're looking forward to all of the things that are happening here. Very dynamic new things happening all the time as we come back and are able to be more present with each other on site here. So we bless anything and everything you're giving here that is for the uplift of all humanity, that is for the uplift of every soul, that is for learning who and what we all are without distinction, not judging, but embracing all. Everything that you give is for the uplift of that kind of consciousness and that kind of community, and making it available to people who are seeking their soul's truth. We're a place where we're the go-to place where you can discover that for yourself and feel true to being who and what God created you to be. So we thank you, and we look forward to seeing you and continuing to share with you, knowing that the light of God is surrounding us. The love of God is enfolding us. The power of God is protecting us. And the presence of God is in all of us, is watching over us. Wherever I am, God is. Wherever you are, God is. Wherever we show up, being the light that God created, all is well. To God be the glory.